Okay, hello. I just wanted to show off this little project. It's like 18 lines of code, and it's going to be used inside a different project. But I wanted to show it off because I really like this how powerful these 18 lines of code is. And the idea here is that like it's really great to write functional code like RxJS and these kinds of libraries where you have like a chaining or a piping way of writing your logic, and it's very declarative and you can write very complex asynchronous flows with them. But the challenge with RxJS is that it's like reactive. It's based on events over time, while most of the logic we write is more imperative, like we call a function. We don't, like when we have an onClick in React, for example, we call a function. We don't listen to the click. So this tiny library takes away that kind of like a requirement or a limitation, and it's all only about the functional piping of things. So as you can see here, we have this pipe, and we call this pipe with this signature, and I'm going to explain that. And what we can see is that what we get back is null and foo. Now what we're actually passing here is an error, a value, and a callback. And this callback is given an error and a value. So when we pass in the foo value to this pipe, what we get back is no error and the value. And this is going to make sense shortly. But what happens here is that this is the code for the pipe. And what it basically does is take in operators. It takes in functions which has this signature. It takes an error, it takes a value, and it takes a callback. And then it goes through these operators and it calls the next one, but it also handles errors and all this stuff. So instead of looking at that, let's just try something out. Okay, so inside this pipe, I want to create a map operator. I want to, maybe we can write it out first. What I want to do is map, and I want to take the current value, and I want to transform it, for example, to uppercase. So the way you would implement this is to create a map, and you take just call it operation, which is the callback we pass in here, and then you give it the signature of the pipe, which is error, value, and next. And if we get an error here, we are not going to handle it. We're just going to pass it along. Okay? And if we're not getting an error, what we want to do is call next without an error. And we want to call our operation with the current value so that we get the new value. And now you can see our console log, it's actually giving out foo. Now what's really interesting here is that what if we wanted to make this map handle things asynchronously? So for example, if we would extend this now, and then we could say new value, that would be the operation, and then let's see, if let's see, maybe we should do an if here, if new value instance of promise, then, sorry, I have not prepared this. We want to say new value then, and what we get here is the new value, promise value, and we want to call next with no error and the promise value. But of course, if something goes wrong, let's see, catch, we get an error here, promise error. Then we want to call, well, I guess we can just call next here because it will implicitly pass that argument along. And if it's not a promise, we do what we just did with the new value. Okay, so now this works, and if I do promise.resolve here instead, it still works. Okay, so now we just made a map operator that if it turns a promise, it will wait until it moves along. And if it's not a promise, it just runs the next one straight away. Okay, so that's a map. So maybe we want to create like a for each here. And again, we get an operation and we give it a value next like this. If it's an error, we don't want to handle it, we just pass it along. If not, we basically want to call our operation with the current value, but we are not going to pass that along because for each just manages something, just does a side effect or something, and then we pass just the same value along. So if we go in here now, we say for each value document title, whatever, equals value, we see that it indeed just runs out foo again. But what if we actually want to stop execution of the pipe? Maybe we want to create a filter. So we have an operation, error, value, next, and if error, we just move along. We'll see why we're doing this shortly. And then we want to say, oops, oh my god, maybe we can do this straight away. Operation value, if that returns true, we actually want to move along. And if not, we don't want to do anything. Yeah, maybe we should just say else if operation. Then we move along, and if it's not true, we're not calling next, so it won't move along down the pipe. So let's try this. Okay, so maybe we should do the filter here. So filter value dot length more than 2. Let's see. Then it says foo, but if I change this to 5, it doesn't log anything because it stops. Okay, so let's see here. We can say pipe, and then we can map, and we can do, let's see, value. Now we get that, so we can just compose pipes together like this. And then let's see, we should try to handle errors. Okay, so as you saw in all these operators, we were checking if it's an error and then we pass it along. But we can actually create an operator called catch error, for example, which is an operation. And this also takes an error and a value and next. But this one is actually going to, if it's an error, it's going to call the operation, oh sorry, it's actually going to move along next without an error, and then with whatever thing you did with the error. Like that. And if it's not, it just passes along the current value. Okay, so let's try to produce an error here. So let's throw bah, like that. And now we can see that the console log here, it logs out bah, because now we actually have an error here. But what if we wanted to actually catch this? So we can catch it like, maybe we can catch it here. Catch error. We get the error, and we can now return the error with whoop-de-doo. So now we can see that we got the error bar, and we added whoop-de-doo, and then since we catched it, we let the logic continue. So we have a pipe here which maps it with the additional exclamation marks. Now we could extend this, like we could do debouncing, we could have like a wait thing, maybe that's the simplest one we can do, where we take milliseconds, value next, and we can just say if error, next error, else, set timeout. We can just do this, I guess. Set timeout. Yeah, set timeout. And we have a callback here where we want to pass null and value, and we insert the milliseconds. Oh, I forgot the arrow thing here. Okay, so now we have wait. So let's wait down here. Let's wait 1 second. And then after, okay, let's increase it. And there it pops up. So the point here is that we can have like a super functional API where it's insanely, like I've been like looking at the code of RxJS, which is, it's really awesome. It's super intelligent. And also looking at, for example, callbacks, it's like, it's insanely clever, but it's like impossible to understand it. Like you have to really know this stuff. And maybe there are some benefits there that's not possible here, but I can't see what that is. This is not true to like the functional reactive programming paradigm, but it gives you the same features, which I really like. At least the features that is most useful. And this is something you can relate to. Like this is how you create an operator. It's super simple. You get an error, you get a value, and you just call next with an error or the new value. So what we can do here to, for example, make this like a callable thing, we could say const as function, and then we would take a value. We would take the pipe and we would return that we want a value to be passed to the pipe. And we don't care about the callback. So we could say like as function here, we do that, and then we just pass in foo. Now it operates as a plain function. Oh, did I do something? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I haven't implemented that. You can just forget about that. Oh, sorry. Of course, we don't see anything. Let's have a console log there. And now we get the value out there again. The point was just to show you that you don't have to call it with the error and the callback and everything. And you can even make this like a promise, so that it actually returns a promise. But anyways, I hope this was fun to watch, and I will probably make this an npm package just for fun. But yeah, it's going to be used in a different project where it's where we do some stuff on top of it. Thanks for watching.